This is my first time ever spending a full week with the Lexus LC500, and I've come to realize a few things about this car, and specifically, I think this is a little bit overpriced in 2023. Let's roll! You're probably reading the title and thinking, why are you comparing this to a Mustang? Well, this thing is actually closer to Mustang than you think. Why? It has a 5-liter V8 naturally aspirated, it makes 471 horsepower. This is a rear-wheel drive, it uses a 10-speed automatic transmission, and it does have, well, 4 seats in this case. So it's not really far off in terms of the specs with the Mustang. One reason why people are obsessed with this car is because this is the closest vehicle that looks like an LFA. Unfortunately, no one can afford an LFA now because they go over $1 million. So this thing resembles the LFA a little bit. In fact, this also looks a bit like the BMW i8 in my opinion. But one thing to absolutely love about this vehicle is the fact that it looks very much like the concept that Lexus introduced years ago. It looks so similar to that in my opinion is the first time that a concept looks exactly, almost exactly as the product itself. I went online and watched some of the videos when this was first introduced as a concept model, and I'm looking at this thing, they look identical. Most concept cars change quite a lot of things, and like the front end, for example, is totally different. The headlights tend to be a bit skinnier on the concept one. This, on the other hand, is so similar to the concept model that I think that's another reason people love this thing. For me, I give Lexus 9 out of 10 for a design because this thing is so sexy on the outside. It's something that I cannot deny. It looks amazing. It looks like a car that it's worth over $300,000. That is, of course, for the design. The lines at the top, the beautiful carbon fiber roof, which is absolutely amazing, matching with the entire panels on the outside. The color as well, this is also a great color for this vehicle. The design of the roof, the backside window, the way this thing flows all the way through, and most importantly, the backside too, the rear end, the tail lights. Then you have the wing, which again, it's a great add-on to this vehicle because it really gives it that sporty and performance, and also a bit of that supercar design minus the front end engine, minus the fact that it does have a front engine. The wheels too are nice, but it wouldn't be my first choice because I don't like chrome in a vehicle like this. It makes it look very tacky in my opinion. We got the big brake calipers in the front, 6-piston with the Lexus logo, 2-piece rotor, 4-piston in the back. The whole thing appears like a supercar in many ways, hence why people are obsessed about this design. You park this thing anywhere and I can guarantee you people will stare at it. I've driven this for a full week and I've had people stare at it everywhere I go because the color is one of those reasons, but it's also the way this thing looks. Like the front end of this thing appears very much like the LFA. But there are things that I don't like about this car, and the first thing is the door handle. Of course, Lexus had to be different, so I invented something like this. A hidden door handle, as if the standard one wasn't good enough for them, but I'm assuming they did it for more airflow. But functionality, it's not there for this one because I've had issue in terms of like locking the vehicle. It's nice when you open the door because you can just push the lever onto the side and it pops out. But when you lock it, most of the time you really have to go hard, and it has failed a few times for me where it doesn't lock. So I have to keep trying, or in that case, I just pull out the actual key fob and then lock it from here. It's not the smartest thing, but I do love the fact that the actual lock icon on the door panel at the top, it changes color. When you lock the vehicle, it goes into green and you can see the actual icon on top of it. That's a nice little touch. The next thing I don't like about the Lexus LC500 is the fact that the trunk is very, very small. In fact, I have some of my equipment in here and the rest I had to put it in the front because there's not enough space. This is the smallest trunk I have seen for a two-door vehicle. In fact, even the Supra, in my opinion, has more trunk space than this, or the Nissan Z for that matter, or probably the Corvette C8, which has a front and a trunk, has more space than this thing. I don't like the fact that you can carry some of your stuff with this going away, for example, for a weekend if you're retired, which I'm assuming most of the owners of the LC500 are. This is not the best, but if you do not have anyone in the second row, well, you can use that as your storage. The next thing I don't like about the Lexus LC500 is technology. Well, this thing is a very outdated. Like, for example, there is no wireless charging pad. You don't have a full 360 camera. Being a coupe, this would be nice to have. It doesn't have a touchscreen option for the infotainment, although I'm not too disappointed on that side because I don't like the fingerprints and I do like the actual center unit here to use the screen. So that way I don't mind it, but for most people would be sort of a outdated option. The next thing is, of course, the cluster. This is the same one used for probably 5 or 6 years now by Lexus, or longer than that. In fact, the IS500 had the same one. It does have a heads-up display, which is a nice touch. The next thing I don't like is the fact that you don't have any control buttons for the climate unit in here. So like for your heated seats, ventilated seats, there's just these buttons over here for fan speed and temperature, but you don't get anything for your ventilated seats. So you have to go like into the screen in climate and find out where everything is. A bit annoying, and of course it takes a bit of process to get used to it. It does have a CD player, hence why I think Lexus is targeting the retired people, because they love probably still using CD players. The next thing is it doesn't have any massage seats. For a car that it's over $100,000, you expect something like that. But I do have to say, these seats are very comfortable and I love the design of it. They hug you nicely, they're spacious, and they feel very comfortable. Then I love the little touches for the carbon on the doorstep when it says Lexus. That really makes the car stand out a bit. The overall design of the interior, even though it is outdated in terms of technology, I still think it's a beautiful design. Everything is where it should be. I love the Lexus clock on the right side. I love the steering wheel. The pedal shifters are nice touch, easy to use. There's buttons still, which I appreciate that. But I think for most people that have seen newer models, this would be slightly outdated overall. I wish Lexus would offer that rear view mirror onto this with the LCD screen that shows the backside, because visibility in this car, it's not the best. The audio system is of course from Mark Levinson, which is one of the most famous one used by Lexus. Great quality audio overall, and of course you can use the CD player. There's no wireless connectivity for your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto in that matter, so everything has to go through, well, a cable, and in some ways that's a good thing because you don't get a wireless charging pad, so you're forced to charge your phone through a cable. The next thing is that this is not very spacious in the back. I could never fit in the back. I tried it and my head is like this. So I didn't even bother to show you guys because it would be a waste of time. I'll give you just how I look. That sounds good. I wish the IS500 was 50% close to this. Not exactly the same, but just 50% how this sounds, because the sound on this thing, it's just totally different than the IS500. Under the hood, uses a 5-liter, similar to the IS500, but this makes 471 horsepower, and he uses a 10-speed automatic transmission, which I truly believe is completely useless having 10 speeds. Why? I've been driving this for a week and I've only been using first, second, third, fourth, maximum will be fifth. The rest of the 5 gears are completely useless. I understand it's for fuel efficiency, but it's just completely useless to have 10 speed in this. But I have to say, from first to second, it is a bit slow. Then second to third and on, it's pretty quick. The shifts are crisp, like that's quick. That to me, for an automatic transmission, that's quick. Even the downshift, it's pretty quick on this car. The transmission used in this car is far better than that sluggish, garbage 8-speed used in the IS500. And I think that's what makes this a better platform in comparison to that car. And the sound is glorious. it sounds really good. And downshift, oh, that's so good. The handling on this car is absolutely superb. Going around the corner with a rear-wheel drive car, this is just absolutely insane what this thing can do. Suspension setup. Here's one thing I noticed after driving this thing for a week. Lexus has designed the suspension to be more for day-to-day than track use. It's very soft. In fact, when you go over a bumpy area, this thing, it's like a boat. It's not stiff at all. In fact, it's probably the softest suspension system I've driven on a sports car. Even the IS500 could get stiff. This, on the other hand, it's totally the opposite. It's geared mostly toward, well, let's say luxury and better ride than it is for performance, which, again, that can be fixed if you wanted to make it into a track car, but this is not designed for that. This is still somehow a good winding roads car kind of thing, but it's not for that track use. Yes, you get the big brake kits in the front. Yes, you get that amazing exhaust sound. The traction is also pretty good in this thing, and you got Sport Plus. But those are for people that just want to go around the corner in roads like this, where you still have the speed limit, but this is not for track use in many ways. You can make it into a track car, but you're going to put a lot more money where it defeats the whole purpose in terms of value. The ride for day-to-day is very soft, very comfortable, spacious on the inside for me as someone that is 6'2". It reminds me very much like a Mustang, but slightly better handling, much more comfortable, very quiet on the inside, much nicer interior. Well, the new one, it's definitely a lot better than this. And it sounds less obnoxious than some Mustangs, although the new one, I don't know how it's going to sound, but oh, this car, I think the most money you're going to pay for this car, it's to do with the exhaust sound, the engine in this car. It's really amazing. And you might say, well, Sam, you had the IS500. It wasn't as good as this. In some ways, it's a different platform. Yes, the engine is the same, but the suspension setup is different. The transmission is far better in this thing than it is in the IS500. And the sound is absolutely glorious. Well, I have never driven this car in automatic mode, even in a parking lot. I've always had it in manual because it's absolutely glorious. Now, here's what I don't like about this. Let's talk about this car. First of all, the turning radius on this thing, it's not good at all. But then that compensates for that. The steering, it's not as direct when you're going around the corner. It feels, again, very much geared towards luxury than performance. Another thing I don't like about this car is visibility. It's poor in this. Now, it is a coupe, but still, it's very hard looking. The back sides, it doesn't even have this part over here, the mirror, which would help the rear end, because if you have people in the back, the visibility just, it's completely rubbish. But then again, it sounds like that. You know, after driving it for a week, I've been asking myself, would I pay almost $134,000, 140 grand out of the dealership probably for a Lexus with a V8 that it only does 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds? Well, let's look at it this way. It comes down to what you like. Me, on the other hand, it's a hard one to bite, because with that kind of money, the options are, well, large, not limited at all. You can get probably a 2022 Nissan GT-R for that money, which can be a track car. It's way faster than this. You can also winter drive it. This, on the other hand, being rear-wheel drive, it's going to be a very hard one. I hate the wheels on the outside. They're so ugly and cheapy looking, like, in my opinion. This car should have better wheels, so that you have to invest in this unless you like these wheels. Another thing I don't like about it, it's very wobbly ride. It's not stiff to the point where it feels like a sports car. It actually feels more like a car for an old man. And every time I drive this, I kind of feel like that a little bit. It's that old style Cadillac, like an air ride kind of thing. I wish it was a little bit, let's just say, stiffer to give you better handling around the corner, so that way you could take this around the track a bit. But having said that, I think the majority of the customers that are going to buy this car are probably, let's just say, seniors or old-time fans of Lexus. And I also think that this car, it's very outdated on the outside. Like this tachometer, the cluster has been like this for the past 8 years or so. I think the reason why people buy this car most of the time is because it reminds them of the LFA, something that they can't even afford. And I think Lexus did a pretty good job with that.